the basement apartment on Elm Street. Hey guys, grab a warm drink, lock your doors, and turn down the lights. I mean it. If you're listening to this in bed, check the window locks too. I'm posting this from a throwaway account, using a VPN and hiding behind 3 layers of encryption. My therapist told me that writing out the full, unedited sequence of events might help with the night terrors. She calls it exposure therapy. She thinks that by putting it into words, I take away its power, but she wasn't there. She doesn't know that some monsters don't care if you write about them. They just like the publicity. 2 years ago, I was 23, that age where you're caught in the middle of everything. You've just graduated, you have a shiny new corporate job at a marketing firm downtown, and you're suddenly hit with the crushing reality of capitalism and independence. You spend 9 hours a day inside a massive sterile glass skyscraper, surrounded by people who don't know your middle name, and then you face the commute home. I wanted my own space. I was tired of college roommates, tired of shared bathrooms, and tired of hearing other people's lives through thin apartment walls. I wanted a sanctuary, a place where I could lock the world out. That's when I found a listing on Craigslist. Beautiful private basement apartment in a historic Victorian home, located on Elm Street. Quiet suburban neighborhood, private entrance, utilities included. Perfect for a young professional seeking peace and quiet. The price was almost a joke. It was half the market rate for anything in the city. Back then, I thought I was lucky. I thought, wow, the universe is finally giving me a break. I didn't know that when something in the adult world seems too good to be true, it's usually because the hidden cost is paid in blood. Elm Street was deep in the suburbs, about a 35-minute drive from downtown. The house itself was a massive 3-story Victorian structure built in the late 1800s. It sat at the end of a long, unlit gravel road, surrounded by an overgrown, sprawling garden that looked like it belonged in a Gothic novel. The nearest neighbor was a massive cornfield away. It was isolated, completely cut off, but to a naive 23-year-old, it looked like a dream. It looked like freedom. I went to see the house on a damp Tuesday evening. That was the first time I met Arthur. Arthur was the perfect landlord. He was in his late 30s, highly educated, and spoke with this incredibly soft, intellectual cadence. He wore thick tweed jackets with leather patches on the elbows, thin gold-rimmed glasses, and had a neatly trimmed beard. He told me he was an architectural historian writing a comprehensive book on pre-war residential structures. He lived alone on the top 2 floors of the house. The basement was originally a root cellar, Arthur explained, guiding me down the stone steps of the side yard, but I remodeled it last year. It has a full kitchen, a modern bathroom, and complete privacy. I value my solitude, and I assume a young career woman like yourself values hers. The apartment was beautiful. It had low, dark oak ceiling beams, exposed brick walls, and a cozy underground warmth. But looking back, the very first warning sign, red flag number 1, happened during that initial walkthrough. In the corner of the bedroom, right next to the closet, was a heavy wooden door. It was roughly 4 feet high, built directly into the foundation wall, and secured with a massive iron latch and a heavy padlock. "What's behind this?" I asked, pointing to it. Arthur's polite smile didn't waver, but his eyes went completely dead for a fraction of a second. The warmth vanished from his face, replaced by a cold, calculating stillness. "Ah, that," he said, his voice dropping an octave. "That is just the crawl space access. The house is built on a shallow foundation. Underneath those floorboards is just dirt, old plumbing, mold, and probably a few rats. I keep it locked so you don't have to worry about it. Please, for your own safety, never attempt to open it." I improvised a laugh. I told him I had no desire to crawl around in the mud with rats. I signed the lease that night, handed over the security deposit, and moved in the following weekend. The first month was peaceful, but slowly the walls started to feel like they were closing in. Arthur began crossing boundaries, but he did it so subtly, so politely, that I felt like a horrible person for even being uncomfortable. I would come home from a long shift at 8 p.m. and there would be a small basket of organic fruit or a loaf of homemade bread sitting on my doorstep. Attached would be a note written in elegant cursive. "So you're working late. The corporate world can be draining. Make sure you eat. A." Then the text messages started. "I noticed your bathroom light was on at 3 a.m. I hope you aren't suffering from insomnia. Stress is a silent killer. You left for the train 5 minutes later than usual today. Did you oversleep? I heard you laughing around midnight. I assume you were on the phone. It's nice to hear life in the basement." It was exhausting. Every time I stepped out into the garden, I felt the phantom weight of eyes on my back. I would look up at the second-floor windows of the main house, and more often than not, I would see the silhouette of Arthur standing behind the sheer white curtains. Not moving, not waving, just standing there, perfectly still, watching me walk to my car. When I finally gathered the courage to text him back and ask him to stop monitoring my schedule, he played the victim perfectly. "I'm deeply sorry if I offended you," he replied via text. As an older man, I feel a sense of responsibility, a young woman living alone in such an isolated area. I only watch out for you because I care about your safety. The world outside is full of bad people. He made me feel like I was the paranoid one. He used my own desire for safety to justify his stalking. That is what psychological predators do. They make you doubt your own instincts until you tolerate the intolerable. To escape the suffocating atmosphere of Elm Street, I did what every lonely 20-something does. I turned to dating apps. I needed a distraction. I wanted to meet someone normal, someone from the city, someone who didn't live above me and watch me through curtains. After days of swiping through low-effort profiles, I matched with Julian. Julian was a breath of fresh air. On paper, he was the perfect catch. 26, working in high-end commercial real estate, with photos that showed him at art galleries, hiking in the mountains, and wearing well-fitted suits. He had this intellectual, articulate charm in his messages that immediately set him apart from the usual crowd. Our first date was at a dimly lit, high-end cocktail lounge downtown. When he walked in, he looked exactly like his photos. He was handsome, attentive, and incredibly well-spoken. He pulled out my chair, ordered a great wine, and hung on to my every word. But as the night went on, a strange pattern began to emerge. That was red flag number 2, the asymmetrical information. Julian asked me a million highly specific questions about my life, my routine, and my home. But whenever I tried to turn the conversation back to him, he would smoothly deflect with a joke or a compliment. "So you live in an old Victorian on Elm Street?" Julian asked, leaning across the candlelit table, his eyes locked onto mine. Those old houses are fascinating. The architecture is so different from the modern concrete boxes downtown. Yeah, it's nice, I said, sipping my drink. But my landlord is a bit intense. He lives right upstream and texts me every time I breathe. Julian chuckled, but his gaze didn't leave my face. Well, old houses have their quirks. Does your place have a basement or one of those old-school structural crawl spaces beneath the floor? I've been reading about pre-war foundations lately. I froze for a second. It was an incredibly odd topic for a first date. Actually, yeah, I said, a bit thrown off. My apartment is the basement, and there's a locked crawl space right in my bedroom. The landlord says it's full of mold. Fascinating, Julian murmured, rotating his wine glass between his fingers. And the house? It's isolated, right? No close neighbors, no heavy traffic. Just a cornfield and woods, I said. I didn't realize it then, but Julian wasn't trying to get to know me. He was conducting a site assessment. He was mapping out my isolation. At around 11 p.m., I told him I needed to get home for work the next morning. Let me call you an Uber, Julian said smoothly, pulling out his phone. I want to make sure you get home safe. The city can be unpredictable at night. I thanked him, thinking it was a gentlemanly gesture. 10 minutes later, a dark sedan pulled up to the curb. I said goodbye to Julian. He kissed my cheek, and I got into the back seat of the car. As soon as the door clicked shut, a cold spike of anxiety hit my stomach. The interior of the car was filthy. It smelled heavily of old cigarettes, damp earth, and air freshener designed to mask something worse. I looked at the dashboard. There was no phone mounted on the vent, no GPS navigation screen running the Uber app. Hi, I said, my voice tight. Are you here for Sarah? The driver didn't look back. He was a broad-shouldered man wearing a dark baseball cap, pulled so low I could only see his jawline. He just nodded once, shifted the car into drive, and pulled away from the curb. Excuse me, I said, looking out the window. Can you confirm the destination? Silence. Sir? I raised my voice. Elm Street, he muttered in a low, gravelly voice that didn't sound like he used it often. I know where I'm going. I pulled out my own phone to check the app, but Julian had ordered the ride from his account. I couldn't see the driver's profile, the license plate number, or the route. I opened my personal Google Maps app and watched the blue dot representing my location. We passed the highway exit. The driver took a sharp right turn down an unlit industrial bypass road that led into the rural farmlands surrounding the city. You missed the highway, I said, panic finally bleeding into my voice. The highway is the fastest way to Elm Street. Construction on the interstate, the driver said, his voice completely flat. This is a shortcut. I checked my maps. There were no construction warnings. The blue dot on my screen was moving further and further away from civilization, surrounded by nothing but black voids of forest and farmland. My hands began to shake. This was red flag number 3, the trap. I clutched my phone, my thumb hovering over the emergency SOS button. If I screamed, if I tried to jump out at a red light, but there were no red lights. There was only the endless stretch of dark asphalt. I realized with sickening clarity that if this man chose to pull over into the woods, nobody would hear me. Nobody would find me. For 30 agonizing minutes, I sat in the back of that dark car, my heart hammering against my ribs so violently I thought it would crack. I didn't say another word. I just watched his eyes in the rearview mirror. He wasn't looking at the road. He was watching me. Finally, the car turned down the long gravel driveway of the Victorian house on Elm Street. The car came to a sudden halt near the side yard. I didn't wait for him to say anything. I slammed the door open, threw myself out into the cold night air, and sprinted down the stone steps toward my basement door. I fumbled with my keys, my finger completely numb from adrenaline. I dropped them once into the dirt, sobbing silently as I scrambled on my knees to find them. When I finally unlocked the door and threw myself inside, I turned around and looked out the glass window pane. The dark sedan hadn't left. It was idling in the gravel driveway, its headlights turned off. And then I looked up. On the second floor of the house, the light in Arthur's study was on. Arthur was standing at the glass window, his phone pressed to his ear. As I watched, the dark sedan flashed its high beams once, slowly. Arthur nodded from the window, pulled his curtain shut, and turned off his light. A second later, the car slowly rolled down the driveway and vanished into the dark. The next morning, I confronted Arthur. I was furious, terrified, and operating on zero sleep. I marched up the front steps of the main house and pounded on his heavy oak door. Arthur opened it wearing a silk dressing gown, a cup of coffee in his hand. "Sarah, good morning. You look pale," he said, his voice dripping with that unbearable academic concern. "Who was that car last night, Arthur?" I demanded, my voice shaking. "I saw you looking out the window. I saw that driver flash his light at you. What the hell is going on?" Arthur sighed softly, shaking his head with an expression of profound pity. "Oh, my dear child, you are letting your imagination run wild. I saw a strange vehicle idling in my driveway late at night. Naturally, I called the local neighborhood watch line. As I was speaking to them, the vehicle drove away. I assumed the driver realized he was being watched. I was trying to protect you." His explanation was seamless. It was logical, but my gut, that primal animal instinct we all try to suppress, was screaming that he was lying. That week, the environment in the basement apartment turned toxic. Every single night, at exactly 3:15 a.m., I would wake up to a sound directly beneath my bedroom floorboards. Scratch, drag, slide. It wasn't the sound of small animals. Rats don't weigh 80 pounds. It sounded like something large, wrapped in heavy fabric, being slowly pulled across the damp dirt of the crawl space. Thump. A dull, heavy impact against the underside of the wood, right beneath where my head rested on my pillow. It felt as though someone down there was pressing their palm against the floorboards, centimeters away from my skull, separated only by an inch of old oak. I stopped sleeping. I lost 7 pounds in 2 weeks. I became hyper-vigilant, checking every corner of the room. I remembered reading those horror threads on Reddit about hidden cameras in short-term rentals. I mocked myself for being paranoid, but the fear was a physical weight in my chest. I went online and bought a professional radio frequency signal detector. When the package arrived, I waited until 11 p.m. I turned off every light in the apartment, shut down my phone and my laptop to prevent interference, and turned the device on. A faint green light glowed on the sensor. I started in the kitchen. I swept the detector over the microwave, the fridge, the light switches. Nothing. Silent. I moved into the bathroom. I swept the mirror, the shower head, the vents. Nothing. Then I walked into my bedroom. I stepped toward the corner where the locked crawl space door sat. The detector remained silent, but as I walked back toward the bed and raised the device toward the ceiling, directly above my pillows, the machine went alive. Beep, beep, beep. A solid, high-pitched, screaming alert. My breath hitched. My hands shook so violently I almost dropped the detector. I dragged my desk chair over to the bed, stepped up onto it, and reached for the plastic smoke detector mounted to the ceiling beam. I twisted the casing. It came off with a sickening crunch. Inside, taped directly next to the 9-volt battery, was a tiny rectangular black circuit board. From the center of that board, a microscopic camera lens, no larger than a pinhead, was pointing directly down through a small, pre-drilled hole in the plastic frame. A tiny blue LED light on the side of the board was blinking rhythmically. It was a wireless, live-streaming spy camera, and it was pointed directly at my bed. I stood on that chair, staring at the camera in my hand, and I vomited. The sheer, violating terror of realizing that my private sanctuary was a stage and someone had been watching my most vulnerable moments for months completely broke me. Who put it there? Was it Arthur? He had the master keys. He had access to the apartment every day while I was at work. Or was it Julian? 2 nights prior, I had invited him over for dinner, trying to convince myself he was normal. He had used my bathroom, and I remembered him being gone for nearly 15 minutes while I was in the kitchen. When I went to check on him, I had found him standing in my bedroom, staring intensely at the locked crawl space door. I grabbed a roll of heavy black electrical tape, tore off a piece, and slapped it directly over the camera lens. I jumped off the chair, dragged my suitcase out from under the bed, and began tearing clothes out of my dresser. I was leaving, right now. I didn't care about my stuff. I didn't care about the rent. I didn't care about anything. I just needed to get to a public place. But as I threw my jacket into the suitcase, a massive summer storm hit the valley. The wind roared through the trees outside, and a brilliant flash of lightning lit up the room, followed instantly by a deafening explosion of thunder. The lights flickered, hummed, and died. The entire house was plunged into pitch-black, suffocating darkness. I reached for my phone on the nightstand. 11% battery, no service. The storm had knocked out the nearby cellular tower. I had no light except for the weak, blue glow of a dying screen. I stood frozen in the middle of my dark bedroom, my heart roaring in my ears, when I heard a sound that made my blood instantly turn to liquid ice. It came from the utility corner, the sound of heavy iron hitting the floorboards. Then, the metallic screech of a heavy padlock being snapped open. The long, agonizing creak of the wooden crawl space door, the door Arthur told me was locked for my safety, was swinging open from the inside. I didn't scream. My throat closed up. My survival instinct took over before my brain could process the terror. I dropped my suitcase, dropped to my knees, and slid into the narrow 4-inch gap between my heavy oak wardrobe and the wall. I pulled my dark winter coat over my head and pressed my face against the cold plaster, praying that the darkness would hide me. Through a small slit between the wardrobe and the wall, I watched. 2 powerful flashlight beams cut through the blackness of my bedroom, emerging from the open crawl space hatch. And then the whisper started. "The feed went dark an hour ago," a voice whispered. It was soft, precise, intellectual. "Arthur." She taped the lens. I told you she was getting suspicious, Julian. You were too aggressive with that Uber driver. Shut up and find her, a second voice replied. It was deeper, confident, and chillingly familiar. Julian, the storm is our cover. The local police are dealing with flooded roads downtown. We have 20 minutes to clear the room. My mind fractured. They were working together, the academic landlord and the charming Tinder date. The date hadn't been a coincidence. The listing on Craigslist hadn't been a coincidence. The entire setup was a coordinated hunting ground. Arthur provided the isolated location and the surveillance. Julian used the apps to scout and lure the victims. She's not in the bed, Arthur hissed, his flashlight beam illuminating my empty pillows. Check the bathroom. I'll check the kitchen, Julian ordered, his heavy boots clicking on the floorboard as he moved out of the bedroom. I knew I had less than 60 seconds before they realized I was still in the apartment. I couldn't run for the front door. The kitchen and the main entrance were right where Julian was heading. The only clear path was the one they had just come through, the crawl space. I crawled out from behind the wardrobe on my stomach, making no sound. I slipped into the utility corner and peered down into the open square hatch. It looked like a direct descent into hell, a black void leading into the foundations of the house. I lowered my body down the wooden rungs of the internal ladder. The wood was slick with wet mud and slime. My foot missed the bottom step, and I tumbled onto the cold, damp earth below. I quickly reached up, grabbed the handle of the hatch, and pulled it shut above me. I found a sliding iron bolt on the underside and slammed it home, locking them out of their own tunnel. It was pitch black. The air was thick, smelling of sulfur, rotting timber, and ancient dust. The ceiling was barely 3 feet high. I couldn't stand. I couldn't even kneel. I had to lie flat on my stomach, dragging my body forward through the freezing mud, using my elbows and toes. Above me, the floorboards groaned violently. She's in the crawl space. Arthur's voice screamed from directly above my head. She locked the hatch. Julian, get the heavy crowbar from the shed. Panic surged through my veins like electricity. I turned on my phone screen. 2% battery. The weak blue light cast long, horrific shadows across the underground void. I dragged myself forward, my fingernails tearing on rocks and broken glass hidden in the dirt. I was searching for the ventilation grates, the small iron screens built into the stone foundation that allowed air to circulate under the house. I knew if I could find one, I could break through to the garden. As I lunged my body forward, my right hand struck something soft. It wasn't dirt, it wasn't wood, it was heavy to thick nylon fabric, a large blue sports duffel bag, partially buried in a shallow trench in the mud. The zipper had been eroded by the damp air, bursting open under the pressure of whatever was inside. I pointed my dying phone screen at the gap in the bag. Inside, nested in the dark fabric, was a mass of long, matted brown hair and the pale, shriveled face of a young woman. Her eyes were wide, dried out, staring blankly into the underground darkness. I threw my hand over my mouth to stifle a shriek, my entire body convulsing with horror. I swung the phone light to the left. There were 3 more duffel bags, neatly arranged in a row, side by side, directly beneath the floorboards where I had spent the last 3 months trying to build an independent life. Suddenly, the wooden hatch behind me splintered with a deafening crack. "I'm through," Julian roared from the dark. A flashlight beam exploded into the far end of the crawl space, illuminating the mud. My phone screen flickered once, displayed a low battery icon, and went completely black. Absolute, terrifying darkness. I didn't think. I didn't care about the pain. I became an animal, clawing through the mud in total blindness, driven by the pure, terrifying will to live. I could hear Julian dragging his heavy frame through the dirt behind me, his breath panting like a rabid dog. "Sarah," he called out, his voice bouncing off the low stone walls. "You can't outrun us down here. We know this place." My hand struck metal, the ventilation grate. I threw my entire body weight against it. It didn't move. Behind me, Julian's flashlight beam washed over my legs. He was less than 10 feet away. I pulled my knees to my chest and kicked the metal grate with everything I had left. The rusted screws gave way, the frame shattered, and I tumbled backward out of the house foundation, landing heavily into the mud and rain-drenched grass of the garden. I got to my feet and ran. I didn't look back. I ran through the thorns, through the overgrown weeds, out onto the unlit gravel road. I ran until my lungs felt like they were bleeding, until I reached the main highway, where I threw myself in front of a heavy semi-truck, screaming for mercy. The police response was massive. They excavated the entire crawl space beneath the Elm Street house. Inside those 4 duffel bags, they found the remains of 4 young women who had gone missing across 3 different states over the last 5 years. All of them were college graduates. All of them lived alone. All of them had active profiles on dating apps. But here is the detail that keeps me awake every single night. The detail that my therapist can't fix. When the tactical unit swiped the house that night, Arthur and Julian were gone. They had a secondary escape route built into the attic that led through the roof and down into the deep forest behind the property. They had wiped their digital footprints, cleared their bank accounts, and vanished into thin air. It's been 2 years. I moved across the country. I live in a high-rise downtown now, on the 14th floor. I have 3 deadbolts on my door, a digital security system, and motion sensor cameras inside my living room. I never use dating apps. I never talk to my neighbors. I don't go out after dark. But 3 nights ago, at exactly 3:15 a.m., my phone vibrated on my nightstand. It was a text from an unknown, untraceable number. I opened it. There was no text, just a single image attachment. It was a photograph. The angle was from high above, looking directly down at me while I was sleeping in my new bedroom on the 14th floor. It had been taken through the small ventilation pane at the top of my window, and beneath the picture, a single sentence was typed. "We missed you in the dark. See you soon, neighbor. If you're listening to this and you hear something shifting under your bed tonight, don't close your eyes. Just run."